Hello ladies and gentlemen, we have come out with a new video. Every one of you are aware that the G20 summit is now going on in India, and it's a great matter of pride for India for the first time being a host for the G20 summit. And hats off to Prime Minister Modi's leadership and the diplomacy he's going to play, and he has already played in his cards before these meetings, because he has gone to Indonesia just before this issue and cleared up a lot more Sherpa issues which were there. You know, Sherpas and are people who are responsible, who are NSAs of different countries, and G20 has a rich heritage and history which I'm going to explain to you a bit today, because it was established in the year 1999 with this 20 countries of the leading countries of the world. It comprises of 85% of the GDP of the whole world and around about 95% of the total global trade. So you feel the dominance of this G20 countries, which has dominated the world throughout the decades until date. So this time India being part of G20 and being a host to the G20 summit is a great matter of pride and accolades to our country, and which is the way India has hosted this particular summit is going to be has been a gala affair. Delhi has been changed to a different venue. The venues were like the Bharat Mandapam, which has been made before by Prime Minister Modi, is actually a matter of what we call Indians are feeling proud about that particular place, because the gala way in which India has showcase their pride and how they can be a good host. No matter what China does, no matter what Xi Jinping does by refraining himself from coming to the G20 summit, but nothing. China has been sidelined, Pakistan has been sidelined. Now the global diplomacy is in the hands of Mr. Modi itself. Now, there were occasions, and the theme of this particular of G20 summit was One Earth, One Family and One Future. Repeating once more, One Earth, One Family and One Future. And you already know that India is famous for Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, because India feels the world is whole world is a one place, and we will always treat our what we call guests in a matter like Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam is a motto for long. And India is a belief among Indians that India is is representing the whole world itself, and it holds a great treasure in treating and hosting in their guests. So that was going on for long, and it was it was due course of time that India will be given a chance to prove that, and India has proved their mettle, what they're made up of. And the moot point of this particular summit is like there were 83 paras and which needed a consensus, because in the Indonesian summit before because of this Russia and Ukraine war, the whole world was not being able to come to the consensus on issues, because there were many trade issues which were luring for time, and it was being pending, and the emerging markets were demanding this consensus for long. So at this particular G20 summit, in the first day we saw that the New Delhi declaration has been made, and it was a great matter of concern, and the New Delhi declaration actually succeeded, and all the countries came into a consensus and accepted the New Delhi declaration. It's a great matter of pride and accolades to Prime Minister Modi for this, because it needed a high-class leadership to particularly bring it into the papers and binding it down. So the last 9 months, the world failed to come into a consensus, and it was trying for this consensus for long. But Amitabh Kant, being the person being instrumental in shaping it down, and along with his officers Nagaraj Naidu and Inam Gambhir, who have helped him up to bind this thing and actually pull it out for India. And there were 83 chapters and by-chapters which has been made, and it was been discussed with all the Sherpas and all the emerging markets. India was primarily dealing with Brazil, South Africa and Indonesia, and until and unless they brought in Turkey, Saudi Arabia and Mexico into the issue, and ultimately the consensus was made because there were more than 83 Sherpas to come into a consensus. And what was the Sherpa means? Because they had to come into a consensus in regarding all the trade agreements, trade deals to be passed on, to find a way out from this territorial sovereignty issue lying with Russia, because there were many red lines put by Russia, red lines put by China, and also by some other countries which have been bifurcated and which has been passed out. And the Prime Minister Modi's leadership was awaited, and he delivered. There were 7 to 8 drafts which was waiting for consensus. Like 15 different drafts and 200 bilaterals had to be brought into table to come to make this to give this a shape the country wanted. And the G7 leaders initially also made a consensus on all these issues. And one of the most important points was that the Black Sea Initiative was also being considered, that the grains which have been distributed from Ukraine, the Black Sea trade and the Black Sea Initiative was brought into table, and it was also being passed. And another most important thing, like the African Union was treated to be, was already had been made a member to this G20, and actually G20 is changing to G21 because there are 55 countries comprising of this African Union. And it's a great win for Prime Minister Modi, because countries which were already being dominated by and going to be a prey for the death trap of China has been won over by Prime Minister Modi's diplomacy. India was concentrating on African Union because China were already depositing and investing huge amount of money to let them fall into the debt trap like other countries they have already done. And they were also luring them to come into Belt and Road Initiative. And another counter to this Belt and Road Initiative have been given by this Indian diplomats in Indian diplomacy, and Prime Minister Modi, hats off to him. Like a Eurasian corridor means India, Middle East and Europe corridor which will be an alternative to BRI. Belt and Road Initiative of China has been delivered. It was going on. It's an American initiative. That there will be a trade route from India to Europe, and the railroad will be running from India to Europe, and whole Eurasia will be connected. And this is a paradigm shift and tectonic shift in this way, and huge win over points for brownie points for India. And there are many alternatives which were sought, and apart from that we find this Rahul Gandhi, and another time we have to tell him because he's a pathological and industrial liar today. And this part when India, when Mr. Modi is bringing accolades to India, and India is getting huge amount of appreciation throughout the world for their hosting of G20, and he has gone to a foreign soil and gone to European Union and met with people who were already passing this anti-India resolution in EU before, and he has met with Fabio Massimo, an ISI agent who has been instrumental in framing and conspiring against India, and these people who are the kings of Rahul Gandhi are only there to defame India and degrade India to the level he wants, and he is actually lining the Chinese propaganda. He's been a person who has been doing the Chinese propaganda alone in India. He's betraying India to every level. So lesser talked about the lesser to be an Indian itself, because he can just be called a betrayer. No, nothing. And this man wants to be a prime ministerial candidate. I mean, which particular person in India will be losing their common sense to make him a prime minister? So another thing, and this. What we call so it's a matter of pride for us. It's a matter. So Amitabh Kant, I was hearing him in the media talking about his what we call the days he has been spent and the amount of pressure they have taken and amount of labor they have taken to bring out this consensus on these 83 chapters and these Sherpas, because all the Sherpas are more or less NSAs and ministers in their country. So once again, this G20 is going on. The first day has gone, and India has come out with flying colors. So do watch our channel, and if you like our channel, do share it and subscribe it. And we are coming up with different programs, so do watch it. And this is a time of glory. It's a time of glory. For the first time, G20 is being initiated by India and being hosted by India. So do follow it, and you'll find a host of what we call a plethora of events going on around it. And Delhi has been. It was the G20 summit was organized throughout India, and the way the India showcased the bureaucrats showcased their what we call colors and their merit in it was hats off to them. When somebody sometime the countrymen brings us pride, it's a real pride for our country and pride for all 140 crores Indians, and we feel it, and we really salute our bureaucrats and the person and the visionary Prime Minister who have brought accolades for our country rather. So enjoy the time, because you will feel that for the first time China has been sidelined. Even China and Russia had to put their consensus, their representatives did that, and Pakistan is totally a sideline country now. So you see what has happened in these 9-10 years under the regime of Prime Minister Modi. So once again, congratulating him on being a very, very good host of G20 and bringing again this African Union and 55 countries of this African Union under this G20 has been transformed to G21. So Indian countrymen, pat your backs and be ready for a great future. Thanks. And the topic goes well: one earth, one family, and one future. Let's our future of the whole world be great and the humankind prosper from it. Thanks, and signing off for today.